Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we studied about the variables and what variables are in any programming language. And in this video, first we're gonna continue a little and we're gonna, do some normal things with variables so that you can get comfortable with them. And then we are going to learn about three basic methods that you have. And before that, we will also discuss what a method actually means, right? So I'm not going to do everything in this tab. I'm going to open up a new tab for Google. And now I'm going to open up the console. Yeah. So, okay. So first let's just do something let's just get some good practice. So what I want you to do is I want you to make two variables and give them a value of 5 and 6. And I want you to add them, right? And store that in a different variable and then print that variable, right? This is a pretty basic thing, but you don't have to do all of this at once. You can do it one instruction at a time, but just try it out once, right? Pause the video and try it out once. Alright, so I hope you were able to do that. If you are not, don't worry. We're gonna see how you can do that. So I'm gonna do var x equal to 4 first. And now if I see x, I get x 4. Or I can see x was 5, so I'll clear this. I can get var x is equal to 5, right? So now x has a value of 5. We wanted a second variable in which the value would be 6. So let's take var y is equal to 6. I'll take y and it gives me 6. Now we want to store it in a new variable. There's sum. So we'll do z, var z is equal to x plus y. Right. Now if we see z, it is 11, which is 6 plus 5. So this was a simple use of variables to give you a better idea of what they are, right? And one thing that I wanted to highlight was this var thing. I talked about it really briefly in the last video. So what var basically does is it tells JavaScript that we're declaring a variable here. Because as you will see in this video, a container cannot only be a variable. Like a variable is always a container. But a container could be something other than a variable, right? So if we go back to the basic definition of a variable, they are containers to store data. But we also have some containers that store multiple lines of code instead of just a single data, right? And they are what methods are. Again, we are going to see methods in this video itself. But for now, you can see that we have other containers too, apart from variables. So what we are doing in this is we are telling JavaScript that this is a variable, right? And once JavaScript knows that y is now a variable, later you can set it to be anything else without writing the keyword var again. And that is because now JavaScript knows what y is, right? So writing something like this means you are declaring a variable, and assigning it a value means assignment to a variable, right? And yeah, that's all for the var keyword. Now a couple of I'm done. Now let's see some logical operations. So three basically, right? So what I mean by logical operations are operations on a Boolean variable. So now we know that we can do 5 operations, including the 4 basic: add, divide, multiply, and subtract, and one remainder. So if I do something like x mod y at this point of time, I get 5 because y is 6 and x is 5. So we have x mod y is 5 mod 6. 5 is equal to 6 into 0 plus 5. So remainder is given as 5, right? So we have these 5 operations on integers. We have a lot of operations on strings, including the join operation as we saw. But what operations could you do on a Boolean variable? So there are basically only 3 operations that you could do. So one thing is that to clear the terminal, you could do something like clear, then you put a parentheses, and then you press enter. What those parentheses mean, we'll get to that in just a moment. So for now, let's see the operations on a Boolean variable. So let me make two Boolean variables where A is equal to true, where B is equal to false. Alright, so the first I want to show you is the not. So if I do A is equal to not A, now if I see A becomes false even though it was originally true. If I do A is equal to not A again, A now becomes true. So, and you can also do A is equal to not B. So A still remains true, and that is because B is false. So if it is not already evident, what not does is it reverses the value. If A is true, then not A would be false, and not is represented by this exclamation mark, right? So not of true is false, and not of false is true. So that is all not is. The next thing is the OR operation. So what if I write something like this? I get true. Now you do not know how that true came. So OR. Basically this symbol is a symbol for OR. And if you haven't coded before and you don't know where the symbol is, look somewhere above your enter key. It is exactly above the enter key in Mac, and it must be somewhere around there in your laptop too. Otherwise, just look around for it. It is just a straight line, right? And putting two such straight lines means the OR operator. OR operator, right? So what OR does is OR returns a value which is true or false. You are doing an OR operation on Boolean variables, and the result will also be Boolean at all times, right? So the basic thing that you need to remember is OR will return true if any of the variables that you are including, in this case we are doing A or B. Imagine we had a var C is equal to true. So A or B or C is also valid, and it gives true because OR will give you a result of true if even one of these variables has a value of true. So the only case in which OR gives you false is when all of the variables that we are ORing have a value of false. Even if even one of them is true, you will get true, right? And the next thing is AND. So you can do A and B. AND is represented by these two ampersand signs, right? So AND basically is the exact opposite of OR. It will give you a value of true only if all the values that you are ANDing are true. So here B was false, and hence we got false. So if we do A and C, we get true, and that is because A and C both are true, right? So these were the three things: the OR operator, the AND operator, and the NOT operator. And these are the only operations you will ever need to do on a Boolean variable, right? Alright, so this was all about the Boolean variables. Now let's move on to methods, the three basic methods that you should know right now, right? So what is a method? First things first, you can see I wrote a comment here, and to write a comment in JavaScript, you would have two forward slashes, and everything that follows that in the same line is a comment, right? So to define what a method is, basically let's go back to our definition of a variable. A method is also sometimes known as a function, right? So a function is basically a thing. It is also a container. However, it does not store a single set of data, a single data. It stores multiple lines of code that someone else could have written, that you could have imported into your code, or you could write a method by yourself too. And we'll get to the writing part later, but for now you just need to know the definition, that the code that I have here, all of this code could be put inside one method. And when I call that method, what calling means is that I'll tell you what calling means, but as soon as we tell the compiler to execute that method, all the lines inside of that particular method will get executed, right? It will get clear later on. We're going to spend a lot of time on methods. For now, I want to show you just three. And the first thing, the clear thing we saw is also a method. And the indication that an identifier is a method is that it will be followed by parentheses, right? Always. And you could also have things inside these parentheses, and we'll see what that signifies when we study about methods. So I can do clear here, right? So the three methods that I want to show you are alert, prompt, and console.log. Right, so let's just start. So the first method is alert. So as I told you, you need to have parentheses in alert in any method, right? And so how alert works is you put some string inside of this. Let's do welcome to Google, right? And to show you what alert is, I can just simply press enter and then see this. We get this small, this is kind of annoying, but this is what an alert is. We see something pops up here and it says welcome to Google. I can press OK and that goes back. So now I could also do, and just now I brought the above line here, and doing that is really simple. You just press the up arrow and this will work perfectly fine. Alright, so I could also do an alert like hello, how are you? And I see that on pressing enter, I get an alert up here that says hello, how are you? Right? So this is all that an alert is, and we are not going to use it in a lot of, you will not use it in a lot of production scenarios, and because this is really irritating, right? So why you would use alert is that you want to see some data that isn't actually displayed on your page. You don't want to display it on your page, but you want to check it while development, of course. So you can print that data in an alert, right? And you could also pass variables in here. I see we get 4 because x was 4 and I have alerted x, right? So that's what an alert is. However, this can become really annoying at times. So if you want to see some data, what you would use is the console.log, right? And what console.log is, I'll just show you. So if I press enter right now, what will happen is this gets printed out to the console, right? And this is what will always happen with the console.log, and this does not have any effect on anything except the console. If somebody has not opened the console, then they will not be able to see that no matter what happens, right? So if I go back to my console here, yeah, so this is what console.log is. You can log anything here, and when we are writing JavaScript in separate files in VS Code too, if you do something like console.log and you put some data here, then you get this in the console without any problems, right? So that is what a console.log is. And the last thing is a prompt, right? So what a prompt is basically it has the same effect as an alert, except you can take inputs through that. Let's see what that is. So you do prompt, again you put your parentheses, inside you pass a message like, let's say hello, how are you? And we'll give this message yet again, but the difference we get now is that we get hello, how are you here, and we get a place to input our text. So we could do something like I'm fine, and you press enter. Okay, and that is printed here, right? So prompt basically is the same thing as an alert, except it lets the user enter some data, and then you can access that data because that is returned by prompt. What I meant by accessing is that var y is equal to prompt what is your age. Now what do you expect that will happen after this? So we get a prompt. It asks me what is my age. Let me enter 100. I press OK, and now it is stored in y. If I do y here, I get 100. So that is the use of a prompt, and while you would not use it in a production app, again, just like an alert, but you could use this to take some inputs from the user until we actually get to, the good backend section where you can take any amount of inputs to the form. Until then, if you want to take any input, you can do that through a prompt, right? So that is it for this video. We've seen three methods: alert, console.log, prompt. So an alert is something that shows up here with a message that you can give inside these parentheses. A console.log is similar to an alert, except that instead of a message up here, you get a message here in the console, right? And the prompt is exactly similar to an alert, except that you have an input field there, and whatever you write in the input field is returned from the prompt function. What is a function? A function is a container that stores a set of code that you can execute by simply writing that one code of that one line. And I told you that I will tell you what calling a function means. So this is exactly what calling a function means. So prompt is a function that is inbuilt into JavaScript. Someone else wrote this, right? And all we have to do to execute the code written inside prompt is write this line. So to execute a function, you will write the function name, and then you will give a set of parentheses with suitable data in between that will be different for each function, as we will say later. But this is how you will execute a function. And as soon as you press this, all the code present inside the function will get executed line by line, and you will get the effect that you want, right? Alright, so now we have seen what functions are, and that is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.